Hi, I'm Luke Machin from The Tangent and Machine, and you're watching Live Prague.
Very high up in the spirit of 66 in Verviers in Belgium with Mr. Andy Tillison.
Hello.
Mr. Luke Machin from The Tangent. Now, before we move into the new band and of course the current album, COMM, I'd like to go back a little while, way back in history. When did you really thought, well, I want to be a musician?
Well, I started piano lessons when I was 6, which is kind of like 40 odd years ago now. So I think it was when I was 12 years old that I decided I wanted to be a rock musician. It was as simple as that. I'd seen Yes, and I'd seen Van der Graaf Generator playing and listening to their music. And Hugh Banton used to go to the same school as I went. He was older than me, so he'd left by the time I got there. But watching this man play the organ for Van der Graaf and watching Rick Wakeman play for Yes, I sort of like thought, well, I'm having piano lessons too, so I want to be able to do what they do. So, that's been it. And at school, I used to actually write The Tangent on my exercise books, and because it was my band, and I thought that would look really nice one day. And I used to design the logo, and we still use that logo now. So, and all that was happening back in about 1972, 73. That's, and of course, all the great progressive rock bands were making their best music at that period. So I was very young to be into that kind of music, which is kind of good because Luke's, he came into this kind of music very young, and so both of us had the same experience, but at different times, haven't we? So, discovering music in our early teens rather than our late teens.
Well, when did it start for you, Luke?
Really young as well. My parents were both into progressive music, and then but they were both into It Bites, and at the time in the late 80s. I just used to watch VHS tapes of Francis Dunnery commanding an audience and just playing, absolutely looking up, worshipping him, I want to be this guy. From then on, I just always knew what I wanted to do. Just wanted to play music in this style because it all incorporates like loads of different genres and everything. So.
Okay, so it was more than Francis Dunnery is, I don't know him that well, but I believe he was guitar player in It Bites.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So it's interesting to see that the people you appreciate at that point, that you also want to like to play that kind of instrument along the way. But correct me if I'm wrong, The Tangent wasn't the first band you started, right?
It was actually.
It was, okay.
But it's been a long story, but The Tangent itself, the first band I had called The Tangent started about 1976 and went through till about 1978 under that name. But there was another band living nearby where we were, and they were also called The Tangents, and they were a punk rock band. So I kind of had to change the name of our band, and we changed the name to A New Opera. And after we were called New Opera, then we decided to change our name because everybody mixed us up with A New Order. And then after that, we called ourselves Gold, Frankincense and Disc Drive. And then we called ourselves Parallel and 90 Degrees, and then finally came back and took our name when we started doing the real prog stuff that we do now. Yeah. So it's really just a long history of the same band with different names, lots of different people. It's basically whichever band has been playing the songs that I write since about 1976.
Okay. So. I find it interesting that Parallel 90 Degrees is more familiar for me. I heard of that band. I'm the one who discovered prog in his late teens. That's probably why I'm not a musician. But I do remember that name and also hearing the music. But What I find interesting is that the names have some connection with mathematics.
Yes.
What's the relevance of that?
Well, I think that's just the ongoing thread. Yeah, we may have changed our name many times and we may have had lots of people, but this kind of thread's carried through it. Yeah, I mean, I've always been really interested in the science behind music. I don't understand a lot of the actual sort of like formal notation and way of writing music down, but when I hear it, when I hear music, I can hear the maths in it, the sheer, you know, I mean, that Bach was a great mathematician, Chopin also, and, you know, people who invented and working in 12 tone and all that kind of stuff, they really appreciated the mathematics of it all, and counterpoint and all that kind of stuff is something I just really love to hear. Mm-hmm. And I guess when I was listening to Yes in the early 1970s and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I could hear that mathematics going on, and that's why I've chosen a mathematical name, really. Okay. That's one way of looking at it. That could be just a load of pretentious bullshit.
Please give it up! Mr. Andy Tillison on the keyboard!
Of course, the Tensions is quite known for the collaboration with a number of musicians from the Flower Kings.
Yes.
How did you get in touch with them?
Well, I saw them at a gig. We were supporting them with Parallel at 90 Degrees. Saw the concert, and I was blown away by them. I thought they were amazing. Probably the best progressive rock band I'd seen in 30 years. And I just thought, wow, that is great. And it just happened I became friends with one of their British representatives. And he kind of said, well, you and Roiner would really end up working together quite nicely. So he put us in touch, and Roiner said, yes, I'd like to be involved in this. And he also said, also our bass player would, and so would our drummer. And I thought, well, that'll solve a lot of problems, wouldn't it? So, you know, it was very nice. We got to work with them, and that lasted for quite some time. Roiner left after the second album, and then we had some other people with nice bells, listen to the band. Yeah. Okay, musical bells, yeah. And then we, you know, little by little we switched it over, and after the fourth album and the fourth tour that we'd done, I decided that I wanted to find people who I could be with, who I could become friends with, and also wanted to be in a band like this. So we could start our own group, which where the focus was on being the Tangent and not on being a sort of like spin-off project for the Flower Kings, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
so that's when I looked around, and I obviously found our bass player Jonathan Barrett, who'd been in Parallel at 90 Degrees before, and of course that's when we met Luke. Theo recommended him to us. They were both working with Francis Dunnery from Bites. They met each other there, and Theo rang me and said, do you want to see this guitar player? And I went on YouTube and looked at this guitar player, and I went, fucking hell, we need this guitar player. So that's about it, yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, when Andy asked you, what was your response? How did you react?
I think Theo, I think after the Francis Dunnery tour, I didn't get his number, I didn't get his contact details, and then he just found me on MySpace. I don't normally check MySpace, but one day I just randomly checked it, and there's a message from me, from Andy, and then would you like to work with us? I was like, sure, yeah. And then I think he sent me, he'd just done Down and Out, didn't he?
That's right, yes.
And then you sent me, I think, Where Are They Now? I heard that for the first time. I was like, bloody hell.
You were not familiar with the Tangent before?
I heard of the Tangent, but I wasn't that familiar with.
Okay.
But I definitely heard of them, yeah. like around them.
You were listening to a lot of Pain of Salvation around that time, though, weren't you? And
Yeah.
other sort of like prog bands and the Dream Theatres and all that sort of stuff. So you were into the music scene, this music scene to start with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I always remember the day when they first came round to our house. Luke and his family came to visit myself and Sally, and it was a really nice meeting because, I was very nervous. I was kind of like 53-year-old guy, and there's this very, very young man coming to see me, 21 years old at that time. I thought, whoa, this is younger than my own kids, And I remember that Luke got his guitar out and just started to play a song by Camel, Chord Change, from the album Moon Madness, and I'll never forget it. I think, that's Moon Madness, that's Camel, Andy Latimer, how does he even know about them? And because, I haven't managed to find a young person for a very long time who knows who Andy Latimer is, and suddenly to hear this song, I just thought, this is gonna work. But I have worked with young people before in Parallel 90 Degrees because they were a generation down from me before. They used to actually be students of mine in a college that I used to work. So I knew this was going to work with Luke before we'd even had a rehearsal.